Pope Francis asked the faithful to rediscover the beauty of the Rosary.
La preghiera è un confronto con Dio e un lasciarsi inviare.
At his weekly talk with pilgrims at the Vatican, the Holy Father also encouraged us to carry a rosary everywhere we go, saying the prayers have been helping the faithful for centuries. He was speaking on the Feast of Our Lady of the Rosary, but his remarks come as Italy is dealing with another wave of COVID-19, and the Vatican has announced masks are now mandatory at all times. EWTN News Rome correspondent Colm Flynn joins us now and attended the talk with the Pope this morning. Hello, Colm. Thank you for joining us. What exactly do these new COVID rules entail?
Good evening, Tracy. Well, the new rules here at the Vatican are that everyone, whether you're a worker, a visitor, anyone within the walls of Vatican City State must now wear a mask. It had always been recommended to wear a face mask when you're in St. Peter's Square, the Basilica, anywhere within the Vatican. But now, as of yesterday, it is mandatory after a letter was sent to all the heads of the different departments within the Vatican. And it seems, Tracy, that they're taking their cues from local authorities who here in Rome have made it mandatory to wear a face mask since October the 3rd.
Colm, can you give us an update on the coronavirus situation in Italy as a whole?
Unfortunately, for the 9th consecutive week, the numbers are rising across Italy. In the last 7 days alone, there were 909 new cases of COVID-19. And when you compare that to the week previously, it was 832. So the graph, unfortunately, is creeping back up in this second wave. People are looking at this and wondering what may be causing it. And one of the possibilities is the children returning to school. Kids are back in the classroom here. And indeed, that's been linked solidly to 14 cases. Now, to try and clamp down on this rise, the authorities are imposing much heavier penalties. If you're caught in public without wearing a face mask out in the open, you now could be fined up to €1,000.
Colm, as far as the general audience with the Pope, was it any different because of these new rules?
Yeah, Tracy, there were a few differences this morning at the general audience. The first big one was that it was held indoors. This is the first time since the outbreak of the coronavirus that they held the general audience indoors. It was in Paul VI Hall, which is just to the left of the Vatican. And they have done a lot in the hall, in the auditorium, to try and ensure social distancing. So, for instance, when you sit down, the seat on either side of you has been removed and a row in front and behind you. So there is a good bit of distance between you and the people around you. But the one thing that struck me as someone who was there for the first time, it was my first general audience with the Pontiff, was that the people who were visiting from all over the world were adhering to the new mandatory mandate to wear face masks in the Vatican. They all had them on. But the Pope himself choosing not to wear a face mask, and I know this is a decision he's been making a lot recently, but it was also surprising to see that much of his security detail, the bodyguards that were walking behind him as he went down the aisle towards the stage at the front, they were not wearing face masks either, and in quite close proximity to the people who were on either side. But he did seem a bit more reluctant in his interactions with people. Towards the end, a group of priests lay their hands over him. They gave him a beautiful blessing, and he did go on to kiss their hands. So I know that this kind of interaction and the fact that the Pope doesn't wear a mask at events like this does raise some eyebrows around the world. But Tracy, there was a beautiful moment at the end of the general audience, was when the Pope went up to this family to give them a blessing, and there was a young boy there who was obviously quite excited to see the Pope up close and personal, and you could see that he wanted to go over and give him a hug, but had probably been well warned about the coronavirus, and he was a little bit reluctant. You could see the Pontiff was a small bit reluctant as well, but in the end they gave each other a small gentle hug, much to the delight and the applause of all the crowd that were there.
Colm, thank you for sharing that story. That was really lovely, and thank you for your report today. Colm Flynn, EWTN News Rome correspondent. Thanks again, Colm.
Thanks, Tracy.